My intention for doing these videos, as often as I do, has become a real kind of passion project of mine, and I just find it really useful and cathartic for myself to talk through these topics, but also if I'm finding it useful and helpful, then I'm hoping that other people will find it useful and helpful too. So my aim is to just assist those that are going through similar things on the awakening journey that can feel quite challenging. And I tend to, as you know, speak about things that are relevant in my own life, or that I've come across within the week with the different people I've interacted with, or that are theme on the world's stage, or whatever it is. But today it's a very strong theme of betrayal. And I know that's not a very popular subject to look at, but it's something that has come up in my own life, not to me directly, but to somebody that I'm very close to. So I want to talk about that today. And I want to talk about the energy of betrayal. And it's not coming from a place of blame or victimhood, but just from a place of real human awareness. And then moving into healing and mastery of the teaching that it shows us. When we are betrayed by someone that we love, or that we were friends with, or that we knew very well, it doesn't just hurt us emotionally, but what it does do initially is really shock the nervous system. And that destabilises our sense of safety and trust and belonging. And when this happens, it's really normal for the mind to start asking questions like, how could they do it? What did I do wrong? How can I make this right? And then it might even move into, and I know this did for me in this particular case, on behalf of the other person that it had happened to, that they should pay for this. And having that experience of going through those questions made me feel, ooh, wow, this is unusual. I don't usually have that kind of fight against energy, but I really did feel it rise up in my body as a defence for that person, because it felt so unfair that this happened. And I just want to say here that we are human, and we are going to have those responses. We have an ego. That's part of the human experience. And to have those thoughts, it doesn't mean that you're unspiritual, but it does mean that your system has experienced a rupture in trust. And betrayal is not always just about what's happened in this particular situation in the present moment, but it almost always touches something much older in the body. And with this particular situation, it really did awaken memories within me of a time when I was quite massively betrayed. And it was just overwhelming, the kind of memories that came flooding back of a situation that I thought I'd fully let go of and learnt from and moved on from. But there were just slightly different kind of bits of it coming through. So when this was happening, it was like really awakening that feeling of being misunderstood and being blamed, not being believed, being abandoned and unprotected. And all of those things were coming back, and I was having my eyes closed whilst feeling through this energy, and lots of images of me in that situation when it happened to me years ago. And every time I saw a version of me within that situation, I did the Ho'oponopono technique, which is to say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And I said it to the version of me in the memory, but also the perpetrator of the betrayal. And as I did that, it just worked through the body. So this was me moving the body into safety, first of all, because the mind just can't understand why that would happen. There's just no point. It can't understand it, and it just perpetuates the nervous system feeling unsafe. So one thing that you might do is place a hand on your heart, a hand on your belly, really connect with your body. Take a deep breath in, breath out, and drop into your heart space, and simply say, I am safe right now. I am here. I am held. And because it's the body and the nervous system that is responding to the energy of the betrayal, the healing has to begin in the body, and the mind can catch up later. It's not the other way round. So really important to really focus on regulating the nervous system, feeling through the emotions that are coming up attached to it, really seeing those memories that might be attached to it with compassion and love. And then once we come into calmness, we can then move into a mastery perspective, and we can know that betrayal is not here to destroy us, but what if it's there to initiate us into a deeper sense of self-trust? And often betrayal reveals the places where we gave our power away. I know that's something that I did many, 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 many times. Over-trusted, again, my theme. Over-adapted, again, my theme. Or made someone else the authority over our worthiness. Again, my theme. So if that is something that you're doing, it's not because you were foolish when you did that, but it's because you wanted connection, harmony, and love. And we can look at betrayal as a moment when the soul says to us, quite loudly, okay, it's time to come back to yourself now. And then the truth of the whole situation can gently emerge. The teaching can be absorbed, and we can move through it and take the lessons from it. Now, this bit about when we're betrayed, we want retribution. That's coming from the ego. And as I said a minute ago, we're going to have an ego because we're a human being. We're an infinite being having a human experience. We need an ego to function in this reality. And the ego just wants fairness. It wants the other person to understand the pain they caused. It wants an apology. I know that I was feeling like this when I first heard about what happened to this person. I wanted to speak to that perpetrator and punish them, if I'm honest. Or at least recognise what they've done. At least ask them why. What do they get out of this? And that doesn't make us a bad person. It just makes us human. It just means that we are human. And the ego, when it's doing this, is just trying to restore balance because it's trying to make sense of the violation that's happened. But on really allowing myself to feel this in the body and do all the processes I've just described, I realised that, as I already know, but it became a knowing rather than a kind of a concept I understand. But the true healing comes from reclaiming our inner authority, not from needing or wanting the other person to change. And because the more that we need them to validate the pain that they've caused, the more that we remain bound to the wound that they've created. So it's just a continuous, keeping the wound open if we just keep hold of that energy. So the sovereignty part of it begins when we say to ourselves, I am now choosing to come home to myself. And the betrayal also tells us something about the other person, not in a blaming way, but just having awareness of where they're coming from. I know in the work that I do that we all do the best we can with the information we have. And that could be through the lens of lots of unhealed wounds, fear, unconscious behaviours, lots of things, the inability to sit with truth, or their own survival strategies. And people that can do that sort of thing can't tolerate discomfort generally, and they can't face responsibility. They are coming from an energy of victimhood, and they can't hold emotional complexity or look at themselves in an objective way at all. And it doesn't excuse the behaviour, but what it does is release us from personalising it. And that's a really important point to make. And betrayal isn't proof that you're unworthy. It's often proof that someone else is not able to meet you at the level of integrity that your soul now requires as you've done some of the shifting and the healing and the moving into more awareness. So when we move from victimhood into mastery, we need to ask different questions. So it's not the usual old version of us asking the question, why did this happen to me? But it's questions like, what is this teaching me about myself? Where am I being asked to strengthen my boundaries? That's a big one for me. What truth is being revealed here? What part of me is ready to come back into alignment? And again, that fitted in with what I said earlier about when I was feeling through the energy and I was seeing versions of myself in a personal betrayal incident from years ago. So those were obviously things that came up for me through this other person's betrayal that needed healing within me. So see this as a journey from there's a wound, but if we choose to look at it here like this and take responsibility, that leads to wisdom. And the betrayal takes us into shock, into confusion, into grief, into shame, into hurt, into all of those emotions. But once we've stabilised the nervous system and allowed ourselves to just focus on the emotion that's there as energy emotion that just needs to move through, and with the subsequent memories that pop up to do with that emotion, and we've healed that and really seen it and allowed it and acknowledged it, it can just shift through us. Once we come from that stabilised nervous system, which I feel I am in now, we can then rise from that void of shock and confusion and grief into a deeper truth. And that might be a clearer sense of self-respect and a stronger, more loving, compassionate relationship with ourselves. It's not about hardening and bounding, having kind of like armouring up. It's more just about being anchored and solid in who you are. Not closed, but sovereign. So if you're someone who's experiencing betrayal right now, I just want to say this, and I'm saying this to myself too, that you don't need to rush forgiveness, as in forgiving the other person. That will come in time. And you definitely don't need to bypass your feelings. You need to allow yourself to feel whatever's coming up without going into the story. Just allow the energy to come up, allow it to show itself, allow it to feel it through and let it move through you. And that you don't need to understand everything today. But the main thing is to have complete gentleness with your nervous system and truth with your heart and loyalty to yourself. Because betrayal is not the end of trust, but it is the beginning of total self-trust. So whatever's broken open in you now, allow that broken part to become the place where the light enters. It might be the moment of deep remembering of who you are, what you actually deserve, and how deeply worthy you are of respect and truth. And this is just part of your journey, and this too shall pass, and we shall grow through it. If you think back to all of the times where something awful's happened, you've always got through it. So I just want you to know you are held. And if anybody would like to share their experiences, I love hearing your comments and to know where you're from. And I hope that it's spoken to someone today. Thank you for listening.